The internet and social media have been growing in popularity, with more and more people turning to it for communication, advertisement, and advocacy. With 5 billion users worldwide, it's a perfect place to advertise chocolates or to support social movements. But when you're scrolling on Insta, how many videos or posts have genuinely had an impact on your perspectives regarding social issues? How many chocolates have you actually considered buying? That leads me to my question. How has the popularization of social media led to a change in advocacy and advertisement for social and political issues? Does being on social media lessen the impact? To answer this question, we need to understand the core principles of how social media works and what it is. So, social media is an online platform or website where people can create and share pieces of media, such as pictures, texts, videos, and messages. For most of us, it's entertainment, but for others, social media is a great way to advertise as well as advocate for social issues. Social movements such as hashtag Black Lives Matter and the hashtag #MeToo movement relied on and was largely grown through social media. The fact that so many people use it every day makes it a lot easier to promote certain issues and reach larger audiences. But what makes it special is that your social media experience is centered around you and what you want, whether it be memes, gaming clips, or just the latest Donald Trump controversy. And to know how this works, we're going to have to go into social media algorithms, which personalize user experience and prioritize some content over others. Firstly, they collect extensive data on their users, such as their activity, content engagement, demographics, and more. User activity includes posts that you liked, commented, or shared. Content engagement is how long you've watched or read specific posts, and demographics are just your age, location, and other personal details. The algorithm also ranks content based on the likelihood that you'll engage with it. It takes into account multiple key factors including relevance, recency, network influence, and the quality and format. Relevance is the user's past interactions with similar topics. If they've interacted frequently with posts on a certain topic or person, similar content gets prioritized. Algorithms also analyze past behavior to predict the probability of a like, share, or click. Recency is simply how long ago the post existed. Newer posts are usually favored over old ones to make sure fresh content is being shown. Network influence is how posts that are heavily engaged with by a user's friends or followers are more likely to pop up. Lastly, the quality and format of the post is taken into account. Things that are in video format might get prioritized if you like to watch videos more. High quality images or well rated content, based on the engagement of others, are also more likely to appear. This is a surface level explanation and mostly common sense. You'll get recommended stuff similar to things you've already watched. But let's take a deeper dive into how algorithms work and how they're able to learn and update the experience with neural networks. Neural networks are networks that are meant to process information similar to how a brain works. It's a system of neurons that work together to come up with a decision. Each neuron receives input, processes it, and then passes it on to another neuron. Neural networks usually use a structure where information is processed in layers, so that each neuron is connected to a neuron in another layer with no loops within the neurons. Imagine each neuron as a calculator, with a system of them being able to tackle larger problems. For example, if it were ranking the videos, one layer of neurons would tackle how relevant it was, the next layer would look at its likes, etc., until a final probability of 0.89 is outputted. In order for a network to learn, it just constantly gets tested. If something goes wrong, it'll tweak some things to do better. But the networks don't change the neurons themselves. Instead, they change what's called the weight or the connection between neurons. Instead of changing the calculator, they just change how important its decision becomes in the final state. This is a really important concept in machine learning and algorithms. In our example, if this one neuron isn't really helping the final calculations and outputs far off values, maybe like 0.36 or something, next time its opinions aren't as important after adjusting the weights. Another thing called biases are also adjusted, which is a certain value that's added to the neuron's decisions before the final output. For example, if we add a bias to the faulty neuron and it always adds 0.2 to its final calculations, next time the output will be a little closer. The bias also helps so that in the case the neuron processes a really low probability again, it'll still be taken into account by the neuron in the next layer. One last thing before the neuron outputs and sends a value is the activation function. It takes the processed info and then puts it into a function that only outputs values within a specific range. For example, in our case, a decimal from 0 to 1. This way, no matter how egregious the values are, the ones that pass through are in the range we need. This also allows the network to be able to understand complex patterns and things that are non-linear. The sigmoid function is one that turns any number into a decimal between 0 and 1. If we input the value 2, the output would be 0.8. No matter how large or small the value is, the final output will still be a decimal between 0 and 1. This is also why the bias is there, to make sure that numbers getting through are more accurate. Now that we know how the algorithms work, we can see people are being shown relevant content. But could that be a flaw? We have to take into consideration this is a platform meant for entertainment. As we have seen, the algorithms tailor the content you see around your interests, which means that you'll be repeatedly shown the same type of content the more you get into it. This creates what's called an echo chamber, where you're only being recommended things that already align with your previous interests. Because of that, there's a chance social issues or current events won't even get suggested, kind of like me who didn't know who Taylor Swift was from watching too much Minecraft. That also means those who do get recommended these topics are the ones that were already previously interested, which is probably through other means such as family and friends. But again, the things that they are shown usually already align with their pre-existing beliefs thanks to the algorithm, so it's not very common to get something that would revolutionize their views and knowledge on specific issues, or even bring new social movements to attention. In political contexts, it causes something called polarization, which is basically where two sides that are actually quite similar become more and more separated over small differences, and or get stronger and stronger beliefs and views as they're being shown similar content over and over again. All of this is just the first part, which is whether you even get recommended social issues. Arguably more important is whether you actually watch or engage with it. Once again, we need to remember that the average or casual user is there for entertainment, which brings up an interesting dilemma. On one hand, if content is too informative and or boring, users won't stay engaged and would move on or scroll to something more favorable. On the other hand, if they make things too engaging, there's the risk of losing the impact of the message they're trying to send, or the message itself is lost in the midst of all the entertainment. Have you guys heard of the song Dumb Ways to Die? It goes something like, dumb ways to die, so many dumb ways to die. The song went viral on YouTube years ago with 320 million views as of now. But what a lot of people don't know is that this song was meant to advocate for a railway campaign in Australia as an attempt to stop people from dying to trains. The song had death by train near the end, portraying it as the dumbest way to die of them all. However, due to its cartoonish nature, there are questions about its true impact. In fact, one could argue that in making everything so cartoonish, they're portraying death as something humorous and entertaining, possibly undermining the serious safety message they intended to convey. However, I do acknowledge that the campaign didn't exactly have a negative impact, and the fact it went viral worldwide means it definitely had a larger effect than if they chose more traditional approaches. Not only does the entire world see it, but also their target audience of Australian youth, so at the very least, the entertaining aspect of it had spread the message. And that brings up the final barrier. Now that you've watched a piece of content, what you gonna do about it? Click the like and share button? Wait, that's a good idea. You should do that right now. Okay, jokes aside, this is called slacktivism, where you're supporting a political or social cause through social media, which usually involves very little commitment or effort. Often, after reading or watching a video about social issues, people leave a simple like, comment, and continue their day. This type of mindset could have an underlying assumption that these problems can be fixed through social media, when in reality, a couple clicks usually don't change much, especially on larger scale problems. Although, to be fair, in more authoritarian countries, publicly liking, sharing, or posting an image can be a direct act of defiance. I would say that slacktivism generates growth for lesser known causes and leads to engagement at the very least. Activism is about raising awareness and influencing people's opinions across the world, which social media can definitely do, even if not everyone gets recommended the content. An example I would like to bring up here is the hashtag Black Lives Matter movement, which was a social/political movement advocating for Black lives. It's what's called decentralized, which means that everyone can do their own thing without needing approval from a leader, allowing it to grow through social media. Platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and X played a large role in how it spread ideas, highlighted cases of injustice, and organized protests, because you're able to mobilize a large number of people easily. Another example was the hashtag #MeToo movement, which was an online social movement that raised awareness about sexual harassment and assault. Me Too encouraged others to share their stories instead of hiding in the dark. And fun fact, in China they used a rice bunny, which was pronounced Me Too, as a clever play on words to avoid government censorship within social media spaces. This does highlight how posting something on social media can be a pretty large act within more authoritarian countries. To sum everything up, despite the difficulties in making content that truly has an impact on certain issues, social media is still a powerful tool, allowing people to connect with others from around the world. While the algorithm does recommend posts that are similar to what you've already watched, it's not impossible to learn about something new. Maybe your friends and family might have seen it and shared it with you. And if you're getting recommended things you actually care about, perhaps you're more likely to make an impact. Entertainment versus education will always remain a struggle when trying to teach or promote certain issues, but that's a balance that is possible to have. Channels like Brightside, Veritasium, or Kurzgesagt have large followings and manage to talk about educational topics in an engaging way. And even if you're not immediately committed to social movements after liking a post, one click goes a long way. At the very least, you're spreading the message, which is already better than nothing. It may not be as much as the committed minorities protesting on the streets, but if enough people do it, then it's safe to say that a difference has been made. I hope that after this video, you have a better understanding on how social media works, and you're able to think more critically about what can have an impact and if there is a large impact. Maybe one day, you'll be leading the charge for justice. And by the way, I made a song about this, so be sure to check it out. Special thanks to my dad, Ayush,
Chase, Tarandeep, and Abid for helping me with this inquiry.